This bright green paste costs $250 per kilogram, and 95% of what the world calls wasabi is completely fake. Real wasabi grows in only a handful of mountain valleys across Japan, fed by glacial spring water in conditions almost impossible to replicate. Every root you are about to see took up to 3 years to grow in ice-cold mountain spring water before it was ready for harvest. From a mountain stream to a Michelin-starred kitchen, this is how Japan's rarest condiment is really made. Inside this facility in Shizuoka, 50 workers process over 3 tons of fresh wasabi root every month during peak harvest season. Wasabi cultivation in Shizuoka dates back to the early 1600s, when a local farmer first transplanted wild plants from a mountain stream into a managed bed. Japan produces roughly 5,000 tons of wasabi annually, but demand outstrips supply by a factor of 10, driving prices ever higher. This facility sits at the source, just minutes from the mountain farms that supply its daily harvest of fresh roots. Every worker passes through a sanitation station before entering the processing floor. Wasabi's delicate flavor is easily tainted by contaminants. The journey begins here, in mountain stream beds, where wasabi has grown wild for over 1,000 years. Wasabi demands water between 12 and 15 degrees Celsius year-round, fed by natural springs that filter through volcanic rock for decades before emerging. Each farm is essentially a managed mountain stream. The farmer's primary job is controlling water flow. Too fast strips nutrients, too slow breeds disease. Natural spring water emerges at a constant temperature regardless of season, creating the stable environment wasabi requires to develop its signature compounds. A typical mountain wasabi farm contains 8 to 12 terraced beds, each roughly 20 meters long, all fed by a single spring source at the summit. Rainfall that lands on these peaks takes 10 to 20 years to filter through volcanic basalt before emerging as mineral-rich spring water at the farm level. New plants are grown from offshoots, separated from mature roots, each one placed individually by hand into the gravel stream bed. Each plant needs roughly 30 centimeters of space in every direction. Overcrowding restricts water flow and promotes the fungal infections that devastate wasabi crops. From a tiny offshoot to a harvestable root, the growth cycle takes 18 to 36 months of uninterrupted spring water flow. Sediment buildup suffocates the roots. Farmers clear debris from every plant by hand, a task that must be repeated after every heavy rainfall. Heavy rains are both essential and dangerous. Too much flow uproots young plants. Too little allows water temperature to rise beyond tolerance. The edible rhizome grows vertically above the gravel line, slowly thickening over 2 years as the plant stores its spicy chemical compounds. Black rot fungus can destroy an entire bed within weeks. Farmers inspect every plant individually at least once per week during the growing season. Once black rot enters a stream bed, the entire terrace must be emptied, sterilized, and replanted, losing 2 years of growth in a single outbreak. A single mountain valley may host a dozen independent farms, each fed by different spring sources at different elevations, creating subtle flavor variations between neighbors. Direct sunlight kills wasabi. Farms use natural tree canopy or shade cloth to maintain the cool, dark conditions the plant evolved in. Winter gravel replenishment protects exposed roots from freezing and provides fresh mineral substrate for the next growth season. Even in midsummer heat exceeding 35 degrees, the spring-fed water stays below 15. A natural cooling system no technology can match. After 2 to 3 years, the rhizome reaches harvest size, roughly the thickness of a thumb and the length of a hand. Harvesting requires patience. The rhizome is brittle. One sharp tug can snap it in half and have its market value. Each root is trimmed in the field, leaves and root tendrils removed, leaving only the prized green rhizome for market. A productive morning yields 12 to 20 roots per farmer. A single root weighing 100 grams is worth roughly $25 at wholesale. Fresh wasabi begins losing its signature spicy compounds within minutes of harvest. Damp cloth slows the degradation during transport. Every harvested plant yields 3 to 5 offshoots for replanting, maintaining the farm's continuous production cycle without purchasing new stock. These cuttings will be replanted within hours of separation. By next year, each one will have developed a visible rhizome. By year 3, they'll be ready for harvest. The roots must reach the processing facility within 4 hours. After that, the volatile allyl isothiocyanate that creates wasabi's heat begins to dissipate irreversibly. The mountain roads connecting farms to the processing valley are often single-lane, adding urgency to every harvest delivery. Inside the facility, the clock is already running. Every minute between harvest and processing costs flavor intensity. Every delivery is logged with exact harvest time. Roots older than 6 hours are downgraded from fresh grade to paste processing. Initial washing removes mountain soil and organic debris. Each root is scrubbed by hand to preserve the delicate skin that contains concentrated flavor compounds. Precision trimming removes anything that would introduce bitterness or off flavors into the finished product. The circular motion is essential. Linear strokes tear cell walls unevenly, producing coarser texture and releasing bitter compounds alongside the desired heat. 3 commercial grades emerge from sorting. Premium roots, straight, thick, with no blemishes, command the highest price for whole root sales to restaurants. The cross-section test reveals quality. Bright uniform green with fine grain indicates peak maturity and maximum flavor concentration. The raw aroma test is immediate. Premium wasabi produces a sharp, clean heat that rises through the sinuses, distinct from the harsh burn of horseradish. Brix readings measure sugar concentration, a reliable proxy for overall flavor compound development in the root. Wasabi's heat doesn't exist in the intact root. It is created in the moment of grading, when cell damage triggers an enzyme reaction producing allyl isothiocyanate. The traditional shark skin grater produces the finest paste. Shark skin's tiny tooth, like denticles, rupture cell walls more completely than any metal grater. The difference is visible and tasteable. Shark skin grating produces smoother texture with 40% more available flavor compounds per gram. Authentic Oroshigen graters cost over $200 each and last roughly 10 years of daily professional use before the denticles wear smooth. Premium whole roots ship directly to high-end restaurants, individually wrapped, temperature-controlled, and delivered within 24 hours of harvest. Each box carries the farmer's name, mountain of origin, and exact harvest date, a level of traceability that justifies the premium price. Blind taste tests confirm that properly flash-frozen paste retains over 90% of fresh grated flavor. The key insight that enabled wasabi's global export market. A single box of 5 premium roots represents over $100 in wholesale value, destined for sushi counters in Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka. Roots that don't meet whole root standards, too small, too curved, or slightly blemished, enter the paste production line. The paste line processes roughly 70% of the facility's total intake, transforming imperfect roots into Japan's most popular wasabi format. The stone mill is purged between every batch. Cross-contamination between farm sources would compromise the traceability that premium buyers demand. The granite wheels weigh over 50 kilograms each. Their rough surface texture is redressed by a specialist stonemason every 6 months to maintain optimal cell rupture. Stone grinding mills replicate the cell rupturing action of traditional shark skin graters, but at industrial scale, processing 50 kilograms per hour. The paste must be processed immediately. Peak flavor intensity lasts only 15 minutes after grinding, then begins a steady decline. Quality testers evaluate every batch within minutes of grinding. The heat should rise cleanly through the sinuses and dissipate quickly, never lingering or burning. Flash freezing at -40 degrees locks in the volatile flavor compounds at their peak, preserving freshness for up to 2 years. Individual serving tubes are the primary consumer format, each containing roughly 50 grams of pure wasabi paste. Each tube is sealed with nitrogen gas to prevent oxidation. the chemical reaction that turns bright green wasabi paste to dull brown within hours of air exposure. The math is simple. Japan produces 5,000 tons of real wasabi annually. Global demand exceeds 50,000 tons. Horseradish fills the gap at a fraction of the cost. Sliced and dehydrated wasabi is the third product line, creating shelf-stable powder that reconstitutes with water for everyday use. Every tube carries full traceability, linking the finished paste back to the exact mountain farm, harvest date, and processing batch. Organic certification requires 3 years of verified chemical-free cultivation, a standard easily met by mountain stream farms that have never used pesticides. Dehydration at 45 degrees Celsius over 12 hours removes moisture while preserving the precursor compounds that activate when water is added. The dried slices are ground into a fine powder, each gram containing the concentrated flavor of roughly 5 grams of fresh root. 3 product formats serve different markets: fresh roots for elite restaurants, frozen paste for retail and food service, powder for mass consumer products. Nitrogen-flushed foil packets protect the powder from moisture and oxygen, the 2 elements that degrade wasabi flavor fastest. Every batch undergoes quantitative heat testing. Allyl isothiocyanate concentration must exceed a minimum threshold to earn the premium grade certification. The chemical fingerprint verifies both quality and authenticity, distinguishing real wasabi from the horseradish imitations that dominate global markets. Export certification requires testing for over 200 regulated contaminants, a process that takes 3 days per batch before international shipment is approved. Over 95% of wasabi served outside Japan is actually horseradish mixed with mustard powder and green food coloring, containing 0 real wasabi. The visual difference is obvious to trained eyes. Real wasabi is subtly green with natural texture variation. Fake wasabi is uniformly bright green from artificial dye. Reading the ingredients reveals the truth. In most commercial tubes, wasabi, if present at all, appears last on the list, meaning it is the smallest component. Outside Japan, small-scale wasabi cultivation has emerged in Oregon, British Columbia, and parts of England, though production remains a fraction of Japanese output. Hydroponic greenhouse operations attempt to replicate mountain stream conditions, controlling temperature, water flow, and shade artificially at significant cost. Local schools bring students to wasabi farms annually, ensuring the next generation understands the cultural significance of this centuries-old agricultural tradition. Purists argue that greenhouse wasabi lacks the complexity of stream-grown roots. The mineral content of natural volcanic spring water creates flavor compounds that hydroponics cannot replicate. Shipping requires precision temperature management, fresh roots at 2 to 4 degrees, frozen paste at -20. Powder at ambient but moisture-sealed. Product development continually expands the application range. Recent innovations include wasabi-infused cooking oil, seasoning blends, and compound butter for food service. New product formats aim to introduce real wasabi flavor to consumers who may never experience a freshly grated root, broadening the market beyond traditional Japanese cuisine. Every premium shipment carries a temperature logger. If the cold chain breaks during transit, the entire delivery is rejected on arrival. During peak harvest from October through March, this facility ships to over 200 accounts across Japan and 35 countries internationally. Fresh wasabi for Tokyo's top sushi restaurants ships by refrigerated express, arriving within 12 hours of harvest for next morning service. Peak mornings bring deliveries from up to 5 farms. Each farm's roots are processed separately to preserve the origin-specific flavor profiles buyers demand. At elite omakase sushi counters, the chef grates fresh wasabi tableside for each piece, a ritual that justifies per-person prices exceeding $300. Beyond sushi, fresh wasabi accompanies soba noodles, grilled meats, and even ice cream, It's clean heat enhancing rather than overpowering delicate flavors. University researchers are testing over 40 wasabi genetic lines for heat tolerance, searching for varieties that can survive water temperatures 2 degrees warmer than current cultivars. In Shizuoka, wasabi ice cream has become a regional specialty. The gentle heat of real wasabi creating a surprisingly complementary pairing with sweet cream. From premium sushi to mass-market snack foods, wasabi's unique flavor profile has penetrated food categories across the globe. For the farmers, wasabi cultivation is as much a calling as a business. Many families have tended the same mountain streams for over 10 generations. Beyond flavor, wasabi's allyl isothiocyanate has documented antimicrobial properties. The original reason it was paired with raw fish centuries ago. Wasabi's pairing with sushi originated in Edo period Japan as a food safety measure. The antimicrobial compounds helping prevent illness from raw seafood. Japan has recognized traditional wasabi farming as a globally important agricultural heritage system, protecting techniques developed over centuries. Younger farmers are increasingly rare. The demanding mountain labor and multi-year crop cycles discourage new entrants into wasabi cultivation. The first batch of the morning is always tested within 60 seconds of grinding, ensuring the mill speed and stone temperature produce optimal cell rupture. All 3 product lines run simultaneously during peak months. Fresh roots ship by noon. Paste is frozen by afternoon. Powder is sealed by evening. Across Japan, the number of active wasabi farms has declined by over 40% in the past 2 decades, as aging farmers retire without successors. Rising stream temperatures from climate change threaten the remaining farms. Even 1 degree of warming pushes conditions beyond wasabi's narrow tolerance range. When water temperature exceeds 18 degrees, wasabi plants stop growing. Above 20 degrees, they begin to die, a threshold being crossed more frequently each summer. Japanese universities are racing to develop heat-resistant wasabi varieties, but breeding programs take decades to produce commercially viable cultivars. Some farmers are adapting by tapping deeper underground water sources, colder by several degrees, to supplement warming surface springs during summer months. Back inside the facility, a fresh morning delivery has arrived from 3 mountain farms. Over 200 roots waiting to be sorted. Daily production tracking ensures no batch exceeds the critical 4-hour field to grinder window. Any root that misses the deadline is automatically downgraded. Every root that enters this building was planted by hand up to 3 years ago, in mountain spring water that fell as rain a decade before that. This single root, smaller than a marker pen, represents 3 years of mountain spring water, weekly farmer inspections, and $250 per kilogram of market value. During peak harvest months, the paste line runs 12 hours daily, processing every root within that critical 4-hour window from field to grinder. From planting an offshoot to shipping a sealed tube of paste, the complete wasabi journey takes over 2 years of patient cultivation. The cold storage holds up to 6 months of frozen paste inventory, bridging the gap between peak harvest season and year-round customer demand. The wasabi flower, edible and subtly spicy, appears for just 2 weeks each spring. It sells at specialty markets for over $50 per 800 grams. Harvest peaks during the cooler months when roots reach maximum size and flavor concentration. Summer production drops by over 60%. When thawed properly, frozen wasabi paste delivers 90% of the flavor intensity of freshly grated root, a testament to the flash freezing technology. $250 per kilogram, 3 years of mountain spring water, a flavor that peaks in 15 minutes and fades by the hour. A single root, lighter than a smartphone, is worth more per gram than many cuts of Wagyu beef. 3 years underground in glacier-fed spring water, 50 hand inspections, a 15-minute window of peak flavor. That is how Japan's rarest root becomes $250 per kilo paste, a condiment so demanding that nature itself can barely produce it. If this journey fascinated you, subscribe and hit the bell. Next time we're heading inside a factory where 3 years of ocean cultivation creates a $10,000 pearl.